Hey everyone, it's Jeremy with Quiet Mind Yoga, and today I want to talk about the adductors, the inner thighs. If you go to sit down and your legs are up like this, higher than the hips, then you can probably bet you have tight adductors, inner thighs, right? So think of moving from the pelvis to the knee. Anytime we want to stretch something, we want to lengthen the distance between the origin and insertion. So in this case, we want to lengthen that distance between the pelvis and the knee, and rather than shortening the distance to strengthen. But oftentimes, if the body's tight, there's a wisdom to the body. There's a reason that it's tight. Maybe that it feels like your body feels a little more protected and safer this way. And there's a reason your body's tense. So instead of just trying to force it to open, let's breathe with it and work with where we're starting. And we can use a block for that. So you can come to your back and focus on contracting those muscles and then releasing them. So you'll have the feet hips width apart, and then bring the knees together, squeezing the block between the legs. And rather than just trying to squeeze the legs together, think of lifting in and up on the pelvic floor. Your low back presses into the ground, and you engage the pelvic floor muscles, and that helps contract the adductors because you're moving from the pelvis to the knees coming together, shortening that distance between the pelvis and the knee. It's subtle, but if you try to move the block, it's not going to budge. Right, so we want that. And then you take the blocks apart outside the knees, knees apart, feet together, and Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle. So you might come here and it feels a little bit more open, right? And then you come back, and you can do this several times, bringing the knees together, block between the legs, pelvic floor lifts, draw the hips in, and try to pull the block away, but don't let the block move. Then knees apart again, Supta Baddha Konasana. Right, so doing that movement a few times lets your muscles know, okay, I'm safe here. I don't need to protect myself. I can contract and release, contract and release. Right. From there, then it's a good idea to work on a little bit more opening. And you can have your blocks under your knees here. Right. So you want to meet the resistance. So if your knees start up here naturally, put the blocks at the highest height and just give yourself a little bit of starting to open there, right? And then as you stay for a while and breathe, maybe you get a little more open, maybe a little further down, right? It takes time. It's not just going to happen immediately, but over several days, several weeks of practice, several months, you'll definitely start to see progress there. Then you can start to go into some deeper adductor stretches. For example, like starting from a wide-legged forward fold, you could come into a version of Skandasana, right? So I'm keeping my toes pointing forward and just shifting towards one leg like a half squat, and then to the other side, emphasizing the length of the space between my pelvis and my knee to stretch the adductor. If I turn, like typically in Skandasana, now it's more of a hamstring stretch, right? Especially if I move over, right, all these other things. So we want to stay in this variation, toes forward, if we want to emphasize the adductors. Right, so I hope this is helpful. These are a few very simple, basic things you could do to see consistent progress in tight adductors. And over time, eventually maybe to open things like pushing forward here, not necessarily something you have to do, but something that can start to ease you into the pose as you start to feel more open and relaxed. But you want to start with something like the contraction, so your muscles know, okay, I'm not going to be pulled and forced into a stretch or pushed into a stretch like you could in Baddha Konasana, but you're easing into it, contracting, releasing, contracting, releasing, and the muscles have this sort of adaptability, right? So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If there's any other videos you'd like to see, let me know. Thanks for watching.